Welcome to the Academy of General Dentistry podcast series featuring Dr. George Schmidt. Each episode features experts in the field of dentistry who share insights and inspiration to help you succeed. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We've got another fantastic show for you today as we welcome Joseph Lucido, Managing Partner of Clear to Launch Dental Marketing. And we're going to talk, of course, about dental marketing. But before we introduce our guest, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and ring that bell. That way you'll be among the first to be notified of all things AGD. So, Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here, George.
Yeah, great to have you on the program here. Looking forward to talking some dental marketing, one of my favorite subjects. But before we do that, let me just introduce you to the audience. Joseph is a dental growth strategist with 15 plus years of experience and a certified CE instructor. He's had the privilege of speaking and hosting alongside some of the most influential names in dentistry as a respected speaker, consultant, and educator. Joseph has collaborated with leading industry professionals to enhance patient acquisition, strengthen brand authority, and boost practice efficiency. Through innovative strategies and data-driven insights, he continues to influence the future of the dental industry. Well, we are very, very thankful of that, right? Important subject. We're always looking at these kind of things and marketing ways to increase our practice. But let me ask you a question. There's a lot of without getting political, there's a lot of folks out there that are a little apprehensive, a little scared about, the economy and, things like tariffs and all these things that are going on there, stock market and stuff like that. So where should we be with our practices in marketing at this point? Should we change anything? Status quo? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that we get asked about a lot is, how do these economic cycles impact what I should or shouldn't be doing? And from a big picture standpoint, what we're seeing a lot of is the search volume just on Google is up in regards to payment plans, financing options. And it makes sense, patients taking longer times to make decision and being more cost conscious than usual. That is something to think about during down economic times, but bigger picture, I think it is, shining a light on being as intentional as possible with every dollar you spend, or should you be spending any dollars on marketing? Just kind of looking at all those different variables and making sure you're, being thoughtful and intentional with the efforts you're taking.
Throughout the course of my career, I've always factored in, marketing as a cost of doing business, regardless of how well I was doing or how poor the practice was doing. I mean, I always thought that was one of the most important things you can do. And, what do you think a realistic, and I ask this to a lot of folks, what do you think a realistic budget is for marketing?
Yeah, we get asked about budgets a lot. And, there's thinking about the variables being, well, if you're, booked out 8 months, your budget should probably be less. But the bigger picture thing is when any time someone asks me out a budget or an ROI question, we ask them, okay, well, step one, what is your lifetime patient value? Because you have to know that number. Because let's say hypothetically you can do a billion ways to search it, but it's going to range from probably 5 to 8,000. We've seen as low as 1,000 in some cosmetic practices. It can be high as 25, 30. And we need to know that number because I like to explain it. I like to kind of appeal to everyone's logical mind. Let's say that we can figure out, okay, the average patient is costing, to get into your door, into your practice is $200 or $300. And they, over the course of their lifetime, spend 5 or 6,000 with you. Well, the question becomes, well, how many times would you trade me $200 in return? I gave you 5,000, and that's just a great way to think about it. And even if this isn't for marketing, even if this is for a piece of equipment, we just want to make sure the math is correct. And when it comes to a marketing budget, like if the marketing's performing well, you should know within 30, 60 days this is working, and then you can increase it. But there's obviously a law of diminishing returns. You just can't throw, tens of thousands of dollars for no reason at it. We just want to be thoughtful and make sure that it's giving you a return.
Yeah, because I mean, I've had a lot of friends who have really successful practices, and they say, well, I don't think I need to market. Why should I do all that? But if you think about it, even the largest, most successful companies in the world, Apple and all, they always market, right? They're always marketing. They're always getting their name out there, and I've always thought it's important. Um, what about you said you have to be intentional and you want to make sure that you target. I mean, you've got to realize that, right? So I guess the first thing you would say to your client is that you've got to sort of narrow down and try to figure out exactly what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Oh yeah, that's step one. I think where a lot of marketing companies fail, and there's so many dental marketing companies out there in our experience, I would say there's probably five or six. I would say, yeah, they're really good at what they do, and then there's another 200 or so that I would say you should look at, you should compare some others. But yeah, when it comes to, I guess, spending and thinking about the type of patient that you want, we just want to have a game plan in place because, or else you're just, we get a lot of complaints of, I don't need more patients, I just need a more specific patient. Well, if we know that we're going after a cosmetic patient, an implant patient, or an Invisalign patient, well, if we're not attracting them, then, we're kind of spinning our wheels and doing stuff that's unnecessary. So going back to, let's, put a plan in place and make sure that we're hitting those targets that are at the end of the day, getting the right type of patients into your practice.
And this may be obvious to many people, but to some it won't, so I'll mention it. You've really got to target your audience. So, for instance, I'm sure you would agree that you're not going to just want to send direct mail marketing or something like that to everybody, right? You want to basically target your audience and narrow that down maybe to a specific mailing list of group of people that you could purchase, for instance,
Yeah, I mean,
step by demographics,
yeah,
income,
but
all
I
that
mean,
kind of thing.
we have done everything from a marketing standpoint. We've done sports partnerships, we have done mailers, we have done, pretty much if a client says, I really want to do this, we always say we will do that in conjunction with, digital aspects of it. The benefit of digital is, so let's say we're targeting families. Well, we know the household decision maker is going to be typically a female from ages 25 to 45. They're going to have these likes, and we can really refine it, and that way targeting the ads with towards that exact person is going to get you the outcome you want, because you don't want to just blast to everybody, because one, it's really inefficient to do that, but two, you're going to get, it's going to put stress on your office of clients that you don't want, patients that you don't want. So it's, yeah, being very specific about who you're targeting, and that's one of the benefits of digital, but there's also other traditional forms where you can do that. But yes, you need to make sure you're targeting the right demographic.
Yeah, and since I brought it up, direct mail, is there any place still for direct mail, or are we all digital nowadays?
No, I mean, it's just every market is different. It just depends on competition. We have some clients in Chicago and, they're in a building and there's 20 other dentists in that building. No, direct mail in that situation might be screaming into the wind. But it also depends on, is there a specialty? And I always view things as, let's test everything. Like if we want to do that, we can look at the cost of a direct mail campaign. There's some situations where it's extremely cost effective. And then as long as we're measuring it and testing it, like, does this make sense for my practice? Um, in our experience, direct mail is not as efficient as some of the other forms of marketing. But at the same time, I'm agnostic. We can, do whatever you would like to do, but I'm going to say, hey, here's my, from working with, hundreds and hundreds of practices across the US, in my experience, this is what we would recommend. But if you strongly believe in, XYZ media, whatever you want to do, like, let's test that and just remove all assumptions and figure it out.
Yeah, and talk to me a little bit about expectations and patience, because and not patience like we would bring into the dental office, but patience with your marketing. I mean, we shouldn't have the expectation that, hey, we're gonna throw a campaign out there and get immediate results. Sometimes it takes a little bit of dripping, if you would,
Sure.
into the market to get a result.
There's going to be some nuance to that. Like, let's look at two examples. Like one, let's say you do a Google Ads emergency dental campaign. Those results, you should know if that's working within, 30 days, 60 days. That's very direct, very impactful. Someone is in pain, they're searching, be like, I need an emergency dentist now. Like if a good agency you're working with, you're going to get results pretty quickly. Now, if you're talking about another more branding style or SEO, you're going to need some more time. But at the same time, like marketing you should be able to see the efforts and results way sooner than you used to without a lot of guessing and a lot of assumptions. But yeah, there's going to be some time associated with it. But I probably take the opposite stance. A lot of marketing companies say, well, we need 6 months, we need a year. I I strongly disagree with that statement. I think, in the right situation with the right expectations, be like, here is what we need to do, and here are the outcomes that we can expect in 60 days. And at minimum, like, we're going to be able to see with all the information that came in, why it may or may not have worked. And in those situations, just allow us to adjust faster. If an adjustment needs to be made, I'd rather do that after, 2, 3 weeks opposed to 4 or 5 months down the road.
Yeah. And so how do you decide what's going on? So if I came to Clear to Launch dental marketing and I said, hey, Joe, I really want to increase my patient volume. I want to get some more cosmetic cases. What are you going to do? Are you going to, how are you going to approach me as their client?
Well, we would look at and say, what is going to differentiate you between you and your competition? We have had this exact situation before in Florida where it's like, I want to increase my cosmetic cases. And within a 2 mile radius, there's 15 docs marketing for cosmetics. So it's like, okay, step one, we just want to show you here's what everyone else is doing. Because if you do the same exact thing that everyone else is doing, they're all working within this same pie. And, we'll see what those looks like. Now, if you want to do it and just test it with other things and just for, 60 days and see, hey, we don't know what we're going to find, but, this is what we can expect. And once you do that, then you kind of have these ballparks, these guideposts that will give you a better direction going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And so from a digital standpoint, I mean, should we be doing Google ads, Facebook, TikTok? I mean, what's the sweet spot there? I mean, where should we be?
Um, we have a CE that we teach, and it is a marketing principles / marketing framework. And the beautiful thing about dentistry is there are scaling levels in a very specific order that you need to do this. And that way you can ratchet up or increase the marketing depending on more or less what you need. So say you start with, a website and then SEO just to making sure you look great online. Sometimes people fix that and that's all they need. And then we say the next level up was we want to do things that are giving us a quick feedback loop and that provides a lot of data. So paid social, paid search, just to see how people are interacting. And then, I mean, 90% of the time, that is all that most practices need when done correctly to get them the outcome that they want. Now, let's say they're in a hyper competitive market. Well, then you have to do a different level of marketing. You need to, get into the what I call organic content, the creation thing like behind the scenes, highlighting that you're an expert and just really raising your awareness. But the great thing is a lot of people want to skip to tell me what my TikTok strategy should be. Well, let's make sure your Google reviews are dialed in first because, if we get all this attention and, you've got 12 Google reviews at 4 stars, well, maybe, we're wasting time putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah. So speaking of TikTok, so we all look at these things, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, and we see all these sort of goofy, let's call them influencers, right? Whatever they are, and they're
Right.
doing all this silly stuff, and it's really entertaining. It's funny. I mean, I love to look at that stuff, but how effective is that to actually market your practice?
Yeah, I mean, you can get a lot of attention by lighting your hair on fire. It's we want to make sure that I tell every doc, it's like you want to get the right type of attention. You don't want to, be doing anything that discredits how professional you are. You want to make sure that you're viewed as an expert. Also, behind the scenes stuff is great, being authentic, stuff that highlights your business, and you as an expert in the space. But in general, when we see people on, the Instagram stories and TikTok, they're doing things that I would call, don't naturally align with, you might be entertaining, but when it comes time for the patient to make a decision, who do I want to see for, you know, my dental needs, maybe they're gonna look somewhere else.
Yeah. Now, does your company produce those kind of things?
No, we'll give content strategies and say, hey, here's docs who do it great and say, make your own version of this. But we tend to stay out of that because it's so personal and it's so hand-holding. We can give you the principles. We're great at the distribution piece of like, okay, let's make sure we get it right in front of the right people, the right content. But the behind the scenes, like if you want to create what they call reality TV show about your practice. That's we have some different companies we could recommend for that.
Yeah. So, not that there's anything wrong with DSOs, and
Mhm.
and they provide a great service in a lot of areas for a lot of folks, and so on and so forth. But what do you say to the smaller practice that's worried that maybe one of these big companies and corporations has moved in, and they've got an enormous marketing budget, and you might be the little guy, and you're afraid of being big-footed by these folks. Is there any strategy that you might be able to employ as in that scenario?
100%. Yeah. So we work with a lot of DSOs and we've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And we can see how the one of the pros, whatever you think of private equity or DSOs, in the industry, there's one thing that is without a doubt, like they bring a lot of professional, very sophisticated systems in place. They hire companies like ours to bring what we'll call weapons grade marketing into a demographic area, and it can be very hard to compete. The DIY model is something that we would recommend against. If I say my tooth hurts and I'm going to analyze it myself and then pull my own tooth, every dentist would be like, well, that's insane. Well, we look at it the same way when we hear dentists about like, well, I'm going to build my own website and try and run my own campaigns. I'm just like the sophistication of these things. Like we have teams of people working on this stuff 24/7, that have gone to school for this and they take continuing education. You're just not going to be able to keep up. So if I am an individual practice and we work with it's probably about 50-50. If we have a private practice that we're working with to compete with a DSO, it is not just about money because some DSOs just throw money at it and then other ones do it the right way. But let's just look at the situation where I won't mention some of the bigger names, but they will spend a huge amount on AdWords, like more than you could ever keep up with. And you can just keep spending money, but you're never going to get the top spot because their budget is 10 times what logically it should be. So in that situation, I think it would be wise to be like, okay, we need to be as intentional as possible about the exact patient that we're looking for. We need to enhance our word of mouth, referrals, and at the same time, where is our advantage? Where can we compete and focus on, hey, local, hey, we're going to do, different campaigns in the community to make us, more valuable. Because at the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And that is the benefit of a private practice. Fighting against the DSO is you can kind of frame them as like a nameless, faceless corporation. So yeah, there's different strategies that you can take as a private practice, but work with a high quality dental marketing firm, dental specific being the most important, just to, put yourself in a position to compete with them.
Yeah, I think there's so many important things that you brought up there, and one of those is that you might the thought might be what geez, I'm either going to throw a lot of money at this, and you simply can't, right? You
Right.
cannot compete with the volume, the budget, and so on and so forth. Or you might say, well, I'm going to do this myself because I don't want to spend any money, and because in the reverse. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, you need a professional out there. You've got to have folks that do this all the time that can simply help you devise the plan and do what's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing your taxes for a reason because it's like, okay, there's sophistication, there's real consequences if I don't do my taxes right, and a quality dental tax professional is going to get you the maximum deductions, the maximum return, and you don't think twice about it. Same thing applies to outsourcing just everything in your business. The challenge for operators for dentists are, it's like, how do I find a trusted marketing partner? Just because there are a lot out there that aren't great. And that's a challenge for people to sort and sift through that.
So if I'm going to hire a marketing company, what are some of the minimum things I should expect from you when I reach out to you and call you? So, hey, Joe, I want to hire your firm. Or if I'm going to interview a couple of firms, what's some of the minimal things that I need to expect from you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you ask these things and you lay these things out in this direction, you don't even need to know the exact answers that you're looking for. This will weed out a lot of the, what we'll say, subpar dental marketing company. So one, make sure dental specific. There's so much nuance to dental compared to just other marketing companies. For example, the second, with reviewing thousands of websites and looking at all the analytics, well, we know when someone goes to your website, the second page they go to, the very next one is going to be the about the doc page. They want to learn about you. So we need to make sure that that's front and center. It's done very specific in the right way. And that's one of like 100 things when it comes to being dental specific. So dental specific marketing, that you want to work with a dental specific marketing company. And then I always tell people ask for 10, 15, 20 references. It doesn't even matter if you check with them, but an agency should be very comfortable with being like, yeah, here's 10, 20 of our clients. Like I have no problem you talking to them. So I would say ask for references. Find out about reporting. Some companies will say, here's a great dashboard. Check it whenever you want. That's not super useful because you don't know what you're looking for. So just make sure there's some sort of cadence, ideally monthly, to review to review kind of your marketing, your outcomes. Are you hitting them? Also, avoiding long contracts. I think I made it pretty clear at the beginning. 30, 60 days, you're going to know. There's no reason to be in a 2-year contract if the marketing's ineffective after 2 months. And we see that a lot. It'll say a lot about a company to, stand behind their team saying, hey, I'm not scared to put you in a long-term contract or I'm not scared to put you in no contract because I know we do a great job. So I think that's important. What else? Specialization's important. You asked me, like, do we do this? Every company's going to specialize in something. A lot of them try and do everything. Like, for example, we don't do photo or video production, and we just straight up say, like, here's some references, here's some places that we do recommend. Because you'll find that a lot of companies will do one thing and then they do everything else poorly, and it just kind of will put you in a not great situation. Um, oh, this is probably the biggest one, bar none, which you can ask simply is make sure that you own all of your content. You own your domain name, you own your website, all of the data that is yours. The only reason a company would want to have those things would be to hold you hostage if you ever tried to leave. So just make sure you own all of that stuff. It's yours. It's a very straightforward, transparent thing, but that'll help you avoid a lot of companies that you don't want to be in partnerships with. But yeah, if you just follow those principles, you're going to land on a pretty good agency to work with.
Yeah, that's great advice. And so, are you saying that it might not necessarily be a good idea to have like one company that works on my reviews and one company that works on my SEO and one company that does my actual whatever's going out there, social media or marketing,
Yeah, I would
direct
just
mail?
confirm like what aligns with your practice and your needs specifically. Like some practices do have, we'll call it a one-stop shop. But the others are going to hit 8 out of 9, and those would be fine too. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for a website and being done with it, then your options are going to be a lot larger. But I do think it's important to I don't love the phrase, but it's like you've got one throat to choke. So it's like if you have a dental marketing company that you're working with and they're doing all these things, I do like that single point of contact. But just be clear, like if they don't specialize in SEO or Google Ads or other stuff, that's important. So yeah, I would say keep it as minimal as possible. You don't want to have 5 different companies for 5 different things. Just make sure that you're paying experts for the services you're getting.
Yeah. And so, for instance, at Clear to Launch, when you go out to see a client, are you going to go and send them a questionnaire, learn about like where do you start with that?
Our team does a deep recon on the practice. They looked
Okay.
at previous ownership, competition, all of those things. We look at, what they're looking to get. We're not for everyone. We're more of a boutique shop. And if someone says, hey, I know my patients are worth X, I actually want more of these type of patients. I want more implant. I want more Invisalign. I want more fee for service, whatever it is. Those are going to be clients who are like, okay, you have a clear direction, you know what you want, let's get into it. If someone just says, I want marketing help, well, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So yeah, we kind of really drill down and make sure we're actually solving the problem that needs to be solved. And I think that is probably the most important to get the outcome that's actually going to benefit your practice. And a lot of places will say that, but you really can't get to that until you find out like, okay, well, what is the real issue? Because we work with places and we found out that they're not answering the phone half the time. It's like, well, you don't need more leads. You need, another front desk person, and this all your problems go away. So yeah, just kind of getting down to what is actually best for the practice is what we do. And we've learned that our organization is more about retention, and we just want to make sure that our clients are with us for 5, 10 years. Some places it's in the front door, out the back door, and it's a different business model. It's just not ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And we may have touched on it earlier, but let me ask you one more time, or in a different way, maybe. What's probably one of the biggest mistakes you've seen people make uh, from a marketing standpoint over the years? And maybe it's simply just trying to do it themselves. I mean, that might be the answer,
Yeah,
but
that no, I mean, no, I mean, obviously that's we'll skip that one because we know that's not a great
yeah,
place. Um, I would honestly say it's once you see it, you can't unsee it, but it's the order. The order of which you do marketing is so important, specifically more than any other industry I've ever seen is dental. Because logically, let's say that you run a great marketing campaign, but your website looks terrible. Well, then someone's going to check just next the next dentist over, and you're wasting these marketing dollars, and you get frustrated and say, "Well, why isn't this working?" And then another example would be, let's say you've got a good website, but you don't show up on Google anywhere because you don't have the right SEO done. That's also very common. So that's like having a Mona Lisa, but it's being in the closet. So if you do these things in the right order, like the right sequence, you're going to get the results you want every single time. Some of the most pain that we see is doing things out of order and, just kind of scratching your head like, well, why doesn't this work? But it's a very logical, systematic way to approach marketing, this framework, that it's verifiable by numbers. So yeah, that's where I would say the biggest mistake that we see in marketing is.
Yeah, we've had guests on the program before where internally at the dental office, you've also got to make sure that your house is in order so that you're not just promoting the business of dentistry and sending those patients elsewhere. You've got to be able to, once you get them into the practice, you got to be able to keep them in the practice.
Oh yeah.
Shut the back door, as we say.
Well, yeah, a lot of dentists market for other dentists and they don't realize it, which is,
Yeah.
a gift and a curse. If you're really good at, the SEO and the online presence and you have a great website and, when people answer the phone, well, you're gonna win a lot of people just by making sure you have those things nailed. You don't want to, it's like, do not pass go until you do these things because it's just so important.
Yeah. And last thing I want to ask you is, what's your experience with having an offer, like a discount with your marketing and everything? So do you think it's has been more productive, or maybe it varies from place to place? Say, hey, X number of dollars cleaning or free exam
Right.
versus just trying to promote the practice straight away.
Yeah, we have there's a lot of opinions on that and there's going to be nuance to practice. If you're just trying to get people in for a cleaning and you're just trying to start the relationship and you're just looking for volume at all costs, discounts can work great. Discounts can also cheapen a brand. If you are, in the high-end cosmetic space saying, veneers now 10% off, that's not necessarily the message that you want to send. And there's other ways to what I say provide value without discounting. And it's, you do this and then you also get this on top of it. If you do Invisalign, you get a year of free whitening. Things of that nature can be better. But that's individual, doctor to doctor. It just depends on, what they're comfortable with and what we would recommend. Because some things also don't perform well in certain marketplaces. Discounting in certain areas doesn't perform great. But there's other places where, hey, this service for, and you sell basically a monthly payment plan to it. Like some of those work really well. Brand new smile starting at, $200 a month is attractive to some types of patients.
Yeah, that's probably the beginning of the discussion between are we going to market or are we going to advertise? Because both are not
Right.
necessarily the same thing, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's there's difference, and we're in the weeds now, but yeah, the different types of campaigns.
Yeah.
What I would recommend in that situation to be like, let's split test it. Well, let's run 2 or 3 different campaigns and see the quality of leads that we're getting in from both, and just seeing the ideal outcome that we want objectively. Like it's like if this is the outcome, we're running 2 different campaigns, and campaign A performs extremely well, then it's kind of hard to argue with the facts.
Yeah, no question about it. Hey, listen, we could probably sit here and talk all day about this, but we had some great conversation, great ideas that you shared with us. And speaking of sharing, share with us your contact information for folks that want to learn more about Clear to Launch Dental Marketing. How can they get a hold of you if they want to hire you, ask you more questions? How can we get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I'm out here hoping to provide value and just some different ways to think about marketing. Websites,
Yeah,
Clear to Launch Dental Marketing, or cleartolaunchddental.com. And I would say, obviously you can figure out how to reach out to us there, but on our website, there is our 3-step modern marketing plan. It is a framework. It tells you exactly what to do, like, and how you can, look for marketing companies. And it's a masterclass PhD level, information about how to market in the dental world today. A lot of value there. It's a CE that we teach. I would recommend everyone stop by and check that out.
excellent. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed having you on the program.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank our producer, Kristen Gover. And if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to our channel. You can always find us on the AGD app, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube under @General Dentistry. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions, contact us at news@agd.org. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome to the Academy of General Dentistry podcast series featuring Dr. George Schmidt. Each